Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let's see. All right. So, as usual, we'll give it a couple of minutes before we get started so that have everybody straggle on in. All right. Hello, Douse, John, Gautam and Bella, Sindhu, Diana. Welcome, everybody. We're just still giving it a little bit of time before we get started. All right. We'll do Magaseka chanting book, Bodily Sutta. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Atitang nang vagamaya napatikang kayagnagatam. Yadati pahinang tang tancha anagatam pachupannang chayo dhammang tatta tatta vipassati asamiyarang asankumpang tang vidda manubruhaye ajeva kitchang attapang ko janya maranang suve nahi so sangarang tena mahasenena machunna Evang viharing ataping ahoratang attandintang tang ve badde karatoti santo Kate Muni. All right. English, a single excellent night. Let not a person revive the past, or on the future build its hopes. For the past has been left behind, and the future has not yet been reached. Instead, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state. Let him know that and be sure of it, invincibly, unshakably. Today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come, who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep him and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly, by day, by night, it is he, the peaceful sage has said, who has had a single excellent night. All right, friends. Hello, Elaine. Welcome. Okay, friends. Well, it is Monday night. It is another Dhammapalooza festival, a festival of Dhamma, 2-hour festival of Dhamma. And as we do here, we started out with some chanting. And later on, we'll do some guided meditation. And in between is up to you. How you guys want this to go. You'll have a say in this because this is a community event. This is a gathering of the Maggaseka, the student of the path community, right? This is not just come and listen to Bhante J talk for 2 hours, right? So this is highly encouraged for you to talk to each other in the chat. Even if I'm talking, if I'm answering a question or something like that, that is not interrupting me. That's not being a distraction. So please, feel free to talk to each other, get to know each other in the chat. That's a good thing, right? To build community. And also, as I do, for the next couple minutes at least, we will, I'll have the floor open, the chat open. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat to see if you have any questions you'd like me to try to answer, if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about or for the community to discuss. Right? If you have anything you'd like me to clarify for you, anything kind of questions or topics, now's the time to put them in the chat. And if nobody has questions or topics, then I will do I'll do a sutta. Hello, Christine and Andrew. Welcome. So as always, right now I'm waiting to see in the chat if there's any questions or topic suggestions. Elaine puts in her vote for let's do a sutta. I actually have a sutta ready to go, but then I thought a thought came to me to cover a specific topic if nobody has one, and now I'm just going to search for that real quick. So I'll keep that. Gives you guys a minute or two to check out to put in your questions and topics in the chat, or else we'll get started. Some candy jelly bellies. That sounds good. And those are allowable usually too, because they're basically just sugar, right? Jelly beans. Let's see. Dow says, when you're a veteran and there's no questions to ask. Well, this is something that's actually very common with newbies too. There is such a thing as being so new you don't know you don't know what to question. Like, you don't have a question because you're just kind of being a sponge and just like soaking it all in. Hello, Adriana. All right, so let's read a sutta about what it is to be a sapurisa, a good person. Majjhima Nikaya number 113. This is a righteous person, a righteous man or woman. Good, righteous, skillful, wholesome, such and such. Somebody who you want to have as a Kalyanamitta. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this, mendicants, I will teach you the qualities of a good person and the qualities of a bad person. So there's sapurisa and asapurisa, right? Somebody who is a righteous person and somebody who's not a righteous person. Listen and pay close attention, I will speak. Yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this, and what is a quality of a bad person? Take a bad person who has gone forth from an eminent family, they reflect. I have gone forth from an eminent family, unlike these other mendicants. And they glorify themselves and put others down on account of that. This is a quality of a bad person. A good person reflects. It's not because of one's eminent family that thoughts of greed, hatred, or delusion come to an end. Even if someone has not gone forth from an eminent family, if they practice in line with the teaching, practice properly, and live in line with the teaching, they are worthy of honor and praise for that. Keeping only the practice close to their heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down on account of their eminent family. This is the quality of a good person. So obviously we have here within the context of the Buddha and his time about the caste system, and when you became a Buddhist monastic, whatever was in your past is gone, right? Whether you came as a Brahmin, as a Khattiya, a warrior leader, a merchant, whatever you came into the monastic life as, all of that doesn't count in the monastic life. The only ranking in the monastic life is years as a monastic. That's it. Which of course also has its downsides, right? Because just because somebody's many, many years as a monastic doesn't necessarily mean they're wise or know what they're doing. But it is a way to have a bit of a hierarchy and keep things going that way. Furthermore, take a bad person who has gone forth from a great family, from a wealthy family, from an extremely wealthy family. They reflect, I have gone forth from an extremely wealthy family, unlike these other mendicants. And they glorify themselves, put others down on account of that. This too is a quality of a bad person. A good person reflects, it's not because of one's extremely wealthy family that thoughts of greed, hatred, and delusion come to an end. Even if someone has not gone forth from an extremely wealthy family, if they practice in line with the teaching, practice properly, and live in line with the teaching, they are worthy of honor and praise for that. Keeping only the practice close to the heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down on account of their extremely wealthy family. This too is a quality of a good person. Hello, Lakeisha, welcome. Furthermore, take a bad person who is well known and famous. They reflect, I am well known and famous. These other mendicants are obscure and insignificant, and they glorify themselves and put others down on account of that. This too is the quality of a bad person. This reminds me of the commentarial story of, I'm blanking out on the monk's name. I don't remember the monk's name. But there's this interesting, nice story. This is not in the suttas. This is a later thing, but it's still a cool story. And it'll come to me as I'm telling the story, I'm sure. So in this story, you have this scholar monk who's very famous big teacher, right? And he goes to the Buddha, and after having a short engagement with the Buddha, he realized, well, wait a second, I know all about the teachings, but I've never put it into practice. And so he was asked, where is an arahant that I could learn the Dhamma, really learn the Dhamma experientially from? Okay. And he was pointed out to a 7-year-old arahant. Those of you who have been around for a while, there are a couple of these 7-year-old arahants around here in the suttas. And so here's this big famous old adult teacher who now has to go and learn from a 7-year-old. Right? And, he has to kind of, he's a little grumbly about it, but he has to, take notch himself down a little bit. And then the 7-year-old says, okay, now go in the muddy water. Like it's a mud run or something like that. Go in the muddy water. And so he did. He went he basically goes in the water, gets all muddy and wet, comes out, pays respects to the 7-year-old. And then the 7-year-old says, now I can teach you. Right. So you have this story of this, this big highfalutin teacher who was a little too high on his own supply, as they say, a little too up on himself. And he was humbled by a 7-year-old arahant. Right. So that's what this reminds me of, this story. Take a good person who reflects. It's not because of one's fame that thoughts of greed, hatred, and delusion come to an end. Even if someone is not well known and famous, if they practice in line with the teaching, practice properly, and live in line with the teaching, they are worthy of honor and praise for that. Keeping only the practice close in their heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down on account of their fame. This too is a quality of a good person. Furthermore, take a bad person who receives robes, alms, food, lodgings, and medicines and supplies for the sick. They reflect, I receive robes, alms, food, lodgings, and medicines and supplies for the sick, unlike these other mendicants. and they glorify themselves and put others down on account of that. This too is a quality of a bad person. A good person reflects it's not because of one's material possessions that thoughts of greed, hate, or delusion come to an end. Even if someone doesn't receive robes, alms, food, lodgings, and medicines and supplies for the sick, if they practice in line with the teaching, practice properly, and live in line with the teaching, they are worthy of honor and praise for that. Keeping only the practice close to their heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down on account of their material possessions. This too is a quality of a good person. Furthermore, take a bad person who is very learned. And so now this is being ellipsed. Let's see, what did I miss in the chat here? Yes, thank you, Douse. Douse is showing himself to be a good listener. Adriana says, 7-year-old Arhants, it can be that easy? Lol. And Douse says, remember, work was done in previous lives. Correct. You almost kind of imagine it's like somebody, if like, maybe they died at 70, and if only they lived to 80, they would have become awakened, right? But for some reason, because of their karma, they didn't make it long enough in that life. So they came back and they were awakened as a young kid. And you know what's interesting? I remember having a conversation with somebody about this in the past, because if you know kids, like, I mean, in Child Protective Services, I had to know like the developmental milestones of kids and all these kind of things. And you know, like every 7 years, there's kind of a big development. Like at least the first 30 years of somebody's life, every 7 years is kind of a new big change, a new development, right? And so around age 7, it is one of those milestones. It's almost kind of like a milestone of going from like almost like a more adult infant to a bit of an older child, right? So I almost want to, I mean, this is not in the suttas or anything, but I always kind of think like, I wonder if there was something in that kind of age, and, and maybe like the mind kind of, maybe like before 7, the mind isn't ready to be awakened, right? And like around 7, when the changes, then the mind is able to be awakened. I don't know. That's just pure theory and speculation. But you don't hear of anybody younger than 7 becoming awakened. Okay. So now, furthermore, take a bad person who is very learned, who is an expert in the monastic law, who is a Dhamma teacher, who dwells in the wilderness. This is one of those things that also, like, you think that it's kind of like the big teacher monks, or these kind of like affluent city monks that might fall for this the most easy. But there's plenty of these kind of more ascetic monks that kind of like get into that whole, like, I'm an ascetic, I'm a better monk than other monks kind of a thing, right? The kind of arrogance that arises from that. So who dwells in the wilderness? See, who is a rag robe wearer? I wear rag robes, and I get robes from dead bodies, not like these monks who get, robes from lay people. Who eats only alms food, who stays at the root of a tree, who stays in a charnel ground, who stays in the open air, who never lies down, who sleeps whenever they lay their mat, who eats in one sitting per day. I eat once a day. You fools are eating 2 or 3 times a day. I'm much better. Remember that. They reflect. I eat in one sitting per day. Unlike these other mendicants, they glorify themselves and put others down on account of that. This too is the quality of a bad person. A good person reflects. It's not because of eating in one sitting per day that thoughts of greed, hatred, and delusion come to an end. Even if someone eats in more than one sitting per day, if their practice is in line with the teaching, practice properly, and live in line with the teaching, they are worthy of honor and praise for that. Keeping only the practice close to their heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down on account of their eating in one sitting per day. This too is a quality of a good person. Furthermore, take a bad person who, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, enters and remains in the first jhana, which has the rapture and bliss born of seclusion, while placing the mind, keeping it connected. They reflect, I have attained the first jhana, unlike these other mendicants. And this is one I've seen. This is one I've seen like in person. Like when Bhavana Society had the jhana retreats every year, boy, that's when the crazies came out. I mean, that's when all these kind of like self-absorbed, like, I'm a jhana practitioner. It was always an interesting experience for the jhana retreat at Bhavana Society. That is for sure. I have attained the first jhana, unlike these other mendicants, and they glorify themselves, put others down on account of that. This too is the quality of a bad person. A good person reflects the Buddha has spoken of not identifying even with the attainment of the first jhana. For whatever they imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. This is actually something that's a big teaching of Ajahn Chah, if I'm not mistaken, and Ajahn Brahm, right? For whatever they imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. There's the Buddha right there saying this, right? And this is also what I've experienced in my own life, right? Like it's interesting. Even before I was a Buddhist, I kind of went on this kick of kind of realizing that in many ways I create my own reality by how I think. So I remember I decided that I was going to start thinking positive. And I came up with this positive thought mantra. And one of the things that I noticed, like thinking positive didn't mean that nothing went wrong, but thinking positive showed me that almost all the times I thought something bad was going to happen, it didn't happen. Right? So like this is an especially important teaching, right? Like how there's an old, I think it's an old Stoic saying from one of the Stoics from ancient Rome. It's something like we suffer more in our minds than in reality, or something like that, right? Which is basically a Buddhist thing too. So this is this kind of like understanding of like part of the positive thought mantra I remember I made. I said, I will remember that to think positive and to keep my mind positive, because even if something bad happens, it will still have been much better with a positive mind state going into it than with a negative mind state going into it. All right. So this is very, very important quote. For whatever they imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. We should keep that. For whatever they imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. Keeping only non-identification close to their heart. Let's see here. I've never seen this translation of non-identification. So I'm checking the Pali here real quick. That's an interesting word. Is it atamayatanyeva? Not identifying with something. Yeah. Keeping only non-identification close to their heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down on account of their attainment of first jhana. This too is the quality of a good person. Furthermore, take a bad person who has placed as the placing of the mind and keeping it connected are stilled, enters and remains in the second jhana, the third, the fourth jhana. They reflect, I have attained the fourth jhana, unlike these other mendicants. And they glorify themselves and put others down on account of that. This too is a quality of a bad person. A good person reflects. The Buddha has spoken of non-identity, even with the attainment of the fourth jhana. For whatever they imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. Keeping only non-identification close to their heart, they don't glorify themselves or put others down on account of their attainment of the fourth jhana. This too is the quality of a good person. Hello, Luke. Welcome. Furthermore, take someone who going totally beyond perceptions of forms with the ending of perceptions of impingement, not focusing on perceptions of diversity, aware that space is infinite, enters and remains in the dimension of infinite space. So now we're going into the arupa attainments, the formula attainments. The dimension of infinite consciousness. So space, consciousness, nothingness, dimension of nothingness, the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. That is the four arupa attainments. Infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception. They reflect, I have attained the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception, unlike these other mendicants. And they glorify themselves and put others down on account of that. This too is a quality of a bad person. A good person reflects, the Buddha has spoken of non-identifying, even with the attainment of dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. For whatever they imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. Keeping only non-identification close to their heart, they don't glorify themselves and put others down, on account of their attainment of the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. This too is the quality of a good person. Furthermore, taking a good person who has gone totally beyond the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception, enters and remains in the cessation of perception and feelings. And having seen that with wisdom, their defilements come to an end. This is a mendicant who does not identify with anything. So the cessation of perception and feeling, if I'm not mistaken, is a special attainment of awakened beings. Right? So this person, there's no bad person who's doing the perception of or non-perception. Wait. Did I do it? No, yeah, okay. Remains in the cessation of perception and feel. Okay, there we go. I was just confused with the attainments there. Okay. And having seen with wisdom, their defilements come to an end. This is a mendicant who does not identify with anything, does not identify regarding anything, does not identify through anything, does not identify with, regarding, or through anything. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied the mendicants were happy with what the Buddha said. All right. Hello, everybody. So we have done it. It was a fairly short sutta, but a good sutta, kind of pointing to a lot of the pitfalls that we can have of arrogance, especially, in the monastic life. There's plenty of pitfalls for arrogance. I remember one of my first Indonesian friends who I met at Bhavana, and she would come with her mother, who didn't really speak much English, but I always enjoyed engaging with her. And one time she came, she goes, she was talking about another place a more, I guess, what would you say? I don't want to say, I want to say, she was talking about monks in another place. She goes, I like monks here, monks over there, like this. And she like puts up her nose, meaning that the monks were kind of, a little aloof and arrogant and looking down on people and things like that, right? But she liked me and the monks at Bhavana, so it was funny. But so we have to be aware. This is something that's very important, right? There are many things that we can like build ourselves up. Like if we're vegetarian, right? Oh, I'm a vegetarian. And it's like, I'm better than these people. They're killing the planet. And then somebody goes, vegetarian, I'm a vegan, whatever. And then somebody comes, you're not a full vegan. You use leather products. I'm a uber vegan, right? There's all kinds of ways that we can use to kind of bolster ourselves up and kind of look down upon others, right? Even like, it's like, I follow the early texts. You people don't even know the suttas. Like so this is, as a practitioner, we have to be very wary of that. There are innumerable numbers of and ways that we can get high on our own supply. Think quite highly of ourselves. Tells us, I'm a vegan. Psh, I'm a Jain. That's great. Yeah, the Jains. I don't think you could go as far. I don't think you could go further than the Jains. I think they're probably the hardest of the hardcore when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm vegan and I do CrossFit. Yeah. I remember a guy back when I did my CrossFit and all my endurance events and my running and stuff. There's a guy called on the internet Vegan Gains. Touted himself as a bodybuilder who was a vegan. Interesting. All right. So does anybody have any clarifications, comments, questions, topics? Hello, Jose. Good to see you. Jose is a friend of the Student of the Path and on the Discord that goes back a long way, at least like 6 or 7 years. 6 or 7 years or so I've known Jose. I don't know if did you start, Jose? Did you start with me on Second Life? I'm not sure. Either way, it's been a long time. So it's always good to see old friends pop in. How about we go to the next sutta? Because it's actually quite good. What should and should not be cultivated. This is something that is a simile, a concept that you see in the suttas, that like the practice is like a farmer sowing the field, right? Cultivating the crops, sowing the field and watering and taking care of it and weeding and things like that. That's the same as a practitioner working with the defilements in our mind and trying to overcome things like our arrogance and our hatred and our greed and all these things, right? So we should cultivate Like he's just singing the praise of CrossFit. Yes, I did CrossFit for a couple years before I became a monk. I quite enjoyed it. All right. So let's read our sutta. What should and should not be cultivated. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants! Venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. Mendicants, I will teach you an exposition on the teaching on what should and should not be cultivated. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak. Yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. I say there are two kinds of bodily behavior. That which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a kind of behavior. I say there's two kinds of verbal behavior. That which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a kind of behavior. I say there are two kinds of mental behaviors. That which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a kind of behavior. I say that there are two ways of giving rise to a thought. That which you should cultivate and that's what you should not cultivate. And each of these is a way giving rise to a thought. I say there are two ways of acquiring perception. That which you should and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a way of acquiring perception. I say that there are two ways of acquiring views. That which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a way of acquiring views. I say there are two ways of reincarnating. That which you should cultivate and that's what you should not cultivate. And each of these is a way of reincarnating. To be reborn as an individual. I'm surprised because usually you don't see Theravada Buddhist monks use reincarnation. This is the first time I think I'm coming across Bhante Sujato using reincarnation. But when he said this, Venerable Sariputta said to the Buddha, Sir, this is how I understand the detailed meaning of the Buddha's brief statement. I say that there are two kinds of bodily behavior. That which you should cultivate and that's what you should not cultivate. And each of these is a kind of bodily behavior. That's what the Buddha said. But why did he say it? You should not cultivate the kind of bodily behavior which causes unskillful qualities to grow, while skillful qualities decline. And you should cultivate the kind of bodily behavior which causes unskillful qualities to decline, while skillful qualities grow. So we're going to get some examples here, but this is important to understand, right? This is there's places in the suttas where the Buddha, I'm going to put my hat on here just to kind of keep my head a little bit warm so I don't start sneezing with my head and my feet. If they're bare and there's like drafts and things like that, it triggers histamine and I start sneezing and stuff. But so this is a general guideline for us, right? Because the Buddha in a sutta, they can't list every single thing that you will ever experience that, if you develop what leads to skillfulness, not what leads to unskillfulness, right? You have to see it for yourself. When you develop something and you see in your own mind that it's making things worse, right? It's instead of letting go of your craving, it's building more craving. Instead of minimizing and abandoning your unskillful actions, it's making you do more unskillful actions. Don't do it. No go. That's a lesson right there. What kind of bodily behavior causes unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities decline? It's when someone kills living creatures. They're violent, bloody-handed, and a hardened killer, merciless to living beings. Adhyapano panna bhutesu. Adhyapano means not full of compassion. Merciless to living beings. They steal. Are we seeing what this is yet? A group of 5 things, group of 5 sila. They steal with the intention to commit theft. They take the wealth or belongings of others from villages or wilderness. They commit sexual misconduct. They have sexual relations. Now see, this is important. This is something that doesn't come up often, but this is kamesu michachara can be something that's confusing to people. Like the 5 precepts. I undertake the rule to abstain from sexual misconduct. Well, the Buddha is giving you what sexual misconduct is here, right? Some people say, well, it's sensual misconduct, so it means this and that. In like one of the older ways of like Vajrayana Buddhism, like you hear the Dalai Lama said this like 20 years ago, like homosexuality is sexual misconduct and all that. None of that in the suttas. This is very clear. The Buddha says this is sexual misconduct, right? So they commit sexual misconduct. They have sexual relations with women who have their mother, father, brother, both mother and father, brother, sister, relatives, or clans as guardians. So this is talking about somebody who is underage, right? So they're still under the protection of their family. They're underage. Somebody who might be have what would they call cognitive disabilities, like maybe somebody who's what's that called? It's escaping me. So like mental retardation and things like that, right? So basically people who can't really consent on their own, right? So that's the first one. They have sexual relations with a woman who is protected on principle, or who has a husband, or whose violation is punishable by law, or even who has a garlanded as a token of betrothal. This is an interesting I've not read Bhante Sujato's translation of this yet. So, who is protected on principle. This is protected by their Dhamma. So this is like a monk or a nun, right? So no sexual relations with people who are trying to live the brahmacharya lifestyle, or a priest, or these kind of things. Bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, any of these kind of people who are trying to live an ascetic, holy life, brahmacharya lifestyle, celibate lifestyle. Not a good thing to have sexual relations with such people. And obviously, if the monastics choose to do it, then they're not monastics anymore. That is a falling offense. No more monasticism anymore for the rest of your life. So a person who's married, so a person who is a religious renunciant, a person who's married, a person who there are laws against, right? Or even somebody who is engaged, right? So this is the list. So basically what you see here is let's see here. 30C. Let's see. So you're in Aussie, right? So it's summer down there. 30C is 90 something, or high 80s, if I'm not mistaken, Luke. Because I know 42 is something like 100 something. It's a bit more than 100. That's because I went to New Zealand, so I got a chance to bone up on Celsius as opposed to Fahrenheit. All right. So this is what and I thought to myself, what connects all of these things? And what connects all of it is, think about within the context. Well, I mean, consent connects it, but not necessarily just consent, right? Because even if, some of these, if the person could consent, but if there's a law against it, so what this is about is societal cohesion. You have to think about most people lived in a small village. Most people in America until 100 years ago lived in small rural farming communities, right? So, all right, I was close. I said high 80s. So, okay. So most people were in these small villages, and if something like an adultery happened, or sleeping with somebody who's protected by their family, something like that, that would be a huge problem that would be caused in that small community, right? Could cause all kinds of issues, all kinds of division. So this is kind of like, don't do this stuff, because this has more long-lasting effects than just you and the other person, right? So you see that connection, and again, this is the anthropologist and the historian of me coming out to kind of understand it from this context. But you see that this is even the precepts, the 5 precepts. It's all about other beings. Who are you killing? You're killing other beings. I mean, you can also kill yourself, technically. And that's still also a breach of the precept. But almost always, it's about other beings. Who are you stealing from? You can't steal from yourself. You're stealing from other beings, right? Who are you having sexual misconduct with? Yourself? No, other beings, right? Who are you speaking lies to? You can do it to yourself, but other beings. Right? Who are you harming when you're intoxicated? Other beings. So this is like the 5 precepts are like a societal contract, right? I'm going to try to act in such a way that minimizes suffering of myself and others. No, Jose. Well, I mean, technically in America, because it's illegal, that would count under that. But in places where it's like not legal, so Jose asked, is prostitution part of this list? In a place where it's not legal and it's consenting, I don't see anything on this list that would negate that. All right, to the sutta. I'll check the chat in a minute, but I want to keep going with the sutta. What time we have here? So it's okay. So our first hour is down. Well, I don't know if we're going to finish this sutta. This one's quite a bit longer than the other one, but we'll see how we go here. That kind of bodily behavior causes unskillful qualities to grow, while skillful qualities to decline. And what kind of bodily behavior causes unskillful qualities to decline, while skillful qualities to grow? The opposite. It's when somebody gives up killing living creatures. They renounce the rod and the sword. They're scrupulous and kind, living full of compassion for all living beings. They give up stealing. They don't, with the intention to commit theft, take the wealth or belongings of others in the village or wilderness. They give up sexual misconduct. So I say that there are 2 kinds of bodily behavior, that which you should cultivate and that's which you should not cultivate. I'm going to start ellipsing. If I said it before, I'm not going to do a lot of repetition so we can get through as much as we can here. I said there's 2 kinds of behavior, that which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. Each of these is a kind of bodily behavior. That's what the Buddha said, and this is why he said it. I say there are 2 kinds of verbal behavior, that which you should and should not cultivate. And each of this kind of verbal behavior, but why did he say it? You should not cultivate the kind of verbal behaviors that cause unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities to decline. And you should do the opposite. Cultivate verbal behavior that causes skillful qualities to grow and unskillful to decline. And what kind of verbal behavior causes unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities decline? We're going to have right speech here. It's when someone lies. So this is actually a very good sutta, because this gives you an expanded understanding of what each of the things are, the precepts. You might have seen, okay, well, don't do this. And now you see examples. Hello, Gray. Welcome. Our Kiwi friend is here. All right. So it's when someone lies. They're summoned to a council, an assembly, a family meeting, a guild, or to the royal court, and asked to bear witness. Please, mister, say what you know. Not knowing, they say, I know. Knowing, they say, I don't know. Not seeing, they say, I see. I see nothing. And seeing, they say, I don't see. They deliberately lie for the sake of themselves or another, or for some trivial worldly reason. Boy, isn't that like all of us? So much of the time, isn't it? That's the first one. Musavada. So the next one, they speak divisively. They repeat in one place what they heard in another, so as to divide these people from these people. And so they divide those who are harmonious, supporting division, delighting in division, loving division, speaking words that promote division. Now, this is almost everybody today. This is government, politicians, media, and even the people, right? This is such a divisive time, and everybody is reveling, almost everybody. I've always made the stand since the beginning to speak words that unite, but a lot of people are reveling in this. Let's be divided. It's fun. We can have our. It's like a better version of gladiatorial games and sports teams. They're on that side and we're on this side, right? Speak words that promote division. They speak harshly. They use the kinds of words that are cruel, nasty, hurtful, offensive, bordering on anger, not leading to immersion. They speak nonsense. And some of you might know the Pali word there, sampapalapa, blah, 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 blah. In the words of Bhante Ji. They speak nonsense. Their speech is untimely and is neither factual nor beneficial. It has nothing to do with the teaching or the training. Their words have no value and are ultimately untimely, unreasonable, rambling, and pointless. That kind of verbal behavior causes unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities decline. And what kind of verbal behaviors cause unskillful qualities to decline while skillful qualities grow? It's when a certain person gives up lying. They're summoned to a council, an assembly, a family meeting, a guild, or to the royal court, and asked to bear witness. Please, mister, say what you know. Not knowing, they say, I don't know. If you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. That is something that we should all understand and put into practice. I don't know, and that's okay. Knowing, they say, I know. Not seeing, they say, I don't see. And seeing, they say, I see. So they don't deliberately lie for the sake of themselves or another, or for some trivial worldly reason. Remember, the Buddha says, there is one thing that if done, the person could do anything else. That is telling a deliberate lie. Important. They give up divisive speech. Now, I love this. We'll see what how he translates this. But they give up divisive speech. They don't repeat in one place what they heard in another so as to divide people against another. Instead, they reconcile those who are divided, supporting unity, delighting in harmony, loving harmony, speaking words that promote harmony. We need more people like that today. You don't see people like that in the public. But we need more people like that. People who want to unite, not divide. They give up harsh speech. They speak that in ways that are mellow. Is mellow something that's common in Australia? Or is Bhante Sujato just kind of showing his age? Maybe he grew up with his parents being hippies or something. You don't hear mellow these days much in America, at least. Let's be mellow, man. It's mellow. Pleasing to the ear, loving, going to the heart, polite, likable, and agreeable to the people. They give up talking nonsense. Their words are timely, true, meaningful, in line with the teaching and training. They say things at the right time, which are valuable, reasonable, succinct, and beneficial. That kind of verbal behavior causes unskillful qualities to decline, while skillful qualities grow. I say that there are two kinds of verbal behavior, what you should cultivate and not. That's what the Buddha said. I say there are two kinds of mental behavior, that which you should cultivate and that which you should not. And each is a kind of mental behavior. That's what the Buddha said, but why? You should not cultivate the kind of behavior that causes unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities decline, but the reverse. Cultivate the kind of behavior that causes skillful qualities to grow and unskillful to decline. So what qualities, what mental behavior causes unskillful qualities to grow and skillful to decline? Douse, at Bhavana Society, the first time I went there, there's this wonderful placard, and it's still there, I believe. But the placard said, more Dhamma, less drama. And I said, yes, I love that saying. And when I start my own place, when Magga Seka has its own place like this, and I have like a Buddha Rupa and all that, I'm going to have a sign, maybe like right there, and it's going to say, more Dhamma, less drama. I was ordained and I lived at Bhavana Society. I can take that. I can use that as my motto. All right. Yes, harmony. All right, so let's go here. It's when somebody is covetous. They covet the wealth and belongings of others. If only their belongings belonged to me. They have ill will and malicious intentions. May these sentient beings be killed, slaughtered, slain, destroyed, or annihilated. I saw this thing where somebody posted, and it was like, I hope we should laugh at all the unvaccinated people that die. You should have been vaccinated. And I'm like, wow, that person needs some mellow. That person is really, really into the divisiveness. Woo, that's crazy. All right. That kind of mental behavior causes unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities decline. And what kind of mental behaviors cause unskillful qualities to decline while skillful qualities grow? It's when someone is content. They don't covet the wealth and belongings of others. Oh, if only their belongings were mine. They have a kind heart and loving intentions. May these sentient beings live free from enmity and ill will, untroubled and happy. They have metta. They're practicing metta. May these beings be free from ill will, enmity, untroubled and happy. Wonderful. That kind of mental behavior causes unskillful qualities to decline and skillful qualities to grow. So there's these two things, right? What are the two? Go to the root. Attachment and aversion. Lobha, dosa, right? grasping, clinging, attachment, anger, resentment, aversion, envy, right? So the two things are the two opposites of craving, the two sides of craving. Attachment, aversion, two sides of the same coin. I say that there were two kinds of mental behavior, that which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a kind of mental behavior. That's what the Buddha said. I say that there are two ways of giving rise to a thought, that which you should cultivate and that which you should not cultivate. And each of these is a way of giving rise to a thought. That's what the Buddha said, but why did he say it? And so we know we should cultivate that which minimizes, that which starves unskillful qualities and feeds skillful qualities, right? And what way of giving rise to thought causes unskillful qualities to grow, what skillful qualities decline? It's when somebody is covetous, lives with their heart full of covetousness. They're malicious and live with their heart full of ill will. They're hurtful and live with their heart with intent to harm. That way of giving rise causes unskillful qualities to grow. And what ways of causes unskillful qualities to decline and skillful to grow? It's when someone is content and lives with their heart full of contentment. They have goodwill and live with their heart full of goodwill. They're kind and live with their heart full of kindness. That way of giving rise to thought causes unskillful qualities to decline and skillful qualities to grow. I say that there are two ways of giving rise to a thought. One should cultivate what is skillful, abandon what is unskillful. I say there are two ways of acquiring perception. Dao says, drama gets you likes on social medias. Dhamma gives you good karma. So this is something that you see as a meditator. When you start to know your mind, you realize, well, actually, you don't even necessarily, if you're an evolutionary biologist, you can see the same thing, or an evolutionary psychologist. It's evolution. Our mind is evolved to pay attention to the negative. Why? Because the negative kills you, right? Think about our ancestors, right? Not even just 30, 40,000 years ago, but like even like Australopithecus and Homo erectus and Homo africanus and all these, and then Neanderthals and all this whole line of beings, right? This is something that even they had, not just human, not just Homo sapiens, us. If you're in a situation where you are essentially prey, right? There are lots of things that can kill you. So the good things you don't pay attention to. The good things are not going to kill you. Your eyes are wide open for the negative, for the bad. Why? Because it'll kill you, right? So we have that that evolutionary the word that comes to my mind is inbred, but that's not really the right word. This evolutionary proclivity, this evolutionary underlying tendency that we pay attention to what is negative, right? I watched that show. What's that show? The big one that came out on Netflix a year ago about social media. I watched that when I was home with my sister, and it's the same thing, right? They focus on what's negative. They give you the negative news, the social dilemma. That's what it's called, right? Because they know negative sells. That's just the way it is. Peace doesn't sell. There's some of you may know that I was a metalhead, right? I was into heavy metal, playing guitar and things like that. And one of my favorite bands, Megadeth, has a song. It's called Peace Sells, but who's buying? Peace sells, but who's buying? Not many people are buying. More people are buying divisiveness. So so you should really kind of, the documentary is called The Social Dilemma. And basically it shows you how social media is quite dangerous. I mean, it has a lot of benefits. I mean, before I was a monk, my Facebook, I think I only had maybe 30 or 40 people on it. And I used it almost exclusively for my photography business. But then, once so basically I've used social media to promote first my business and then my Dhamma, right? So like if I wasn't a monk, my social media would be for my photography. That's basically it. I mean, because it wasn't something that I got into heavily. Because, I was like, who are these friends on Facebook? These aren't real friends. Like, I mean, this is not really being a friend, being a Facebook friend. That's not being a friend. It takes a little bit more than clicking friend to be a friend. You can read the Sigalovada Sutta in Digha Nikaya, where the Buddha says, a friend is somebody who's a friend in need, not just a friend when times are good. When you need somebody in modern times, they say, you know who your friend is when you have to move, right? When you have to move, the person who's helping you move, that's a friend, right? Because it ain't easy to move. I helped my sister and my brother-in-law, while I was home in December. I helped them move 2.5, 3 days of moving. And it wasn't easy, but I liked it. I felt really good about it. First I got to spend time with my brother-in-law, and my nephew, and also my sister and my niece and my nephew, my younger niece and nephew. So I got to spend time with them, and I got to get some good exercise in. That felt good. And it felt good to help somebody, right? I used to love doing that when I was a layperson. I would help if my friends needed anything like that. I was there. I helped my best friend, paint the new house that they moved in. It's all good stuff. And it's good stuff to do. But I'm also a sap for like camaraderie, and like if somebody's really a true friend, I'm a true friend. Like, I will go out of my way to help somebody. But even if they don't reciprocate, well, I mean, if that's how it is, like on all levels, then I don't, I drop them as a friend. Don't suffer fools. Better to have one. I remember my grandfather said, it's better in life if you in your life, if you have one true good, real good friend, count yourself lucky. And I've been lucky enough to have that 2 or 3 of those over time, not really overlapping. They kind of came into my life and they're kind of out of my life. You're going to see pretty soon, my podcast is almost out. And my podcast is with my best friend from lay life before I became a monk. So you're going to see he has a new podcast, and while I was in California, he interviewed me on the podcast, right? And so you're going to see somebody, and I can show you a picture of us way back from 2009. You can see me as a monk and him as a spiritual, a healer type guy, a spiritual guy, talking about these kind of things. All right. So in what ways of acquiring perception causes unskillful qualities to grow while skillful qualities decline? It's when somebody is covetous and lives with their perception full of covetousness. They're malicious and lives with their perception full of ill will. They're hurtful and lives with their perception intent on harm. Now, this is interesting, right? Because we're talking about perception here. We're talking about perception. So this is about, this I would say could be about both them and other people. Like if the perception of your mind is everybody out there is out to get you, everybody out there is evil, everybody out there is malicious, you're not going to be in a good mind state. You will never have a peaceful mind state, right? Now, obviously, the same thing. If it's your mind, if the perception is of your perception is maliciousness, etc. So I think maybe this could be me reading into it, but I think with perception it can go both ways there, the internal and the external. Because boy, if your perception is that humanity is a virus, or humanity's untrustworthy, there's no one I can trust, and these kind of things, that's a prison. That's suffering. That is not a good that's not a good perception. Not at all. In what ways do skillful qualities grow? It's when somebody is content and lives with their perception full of contentment. They have goodwill and lives with a perception full of goodwill. They're kind and live with a perception full of kindness. That way of acquiring perception causes unskillful qualities to decline and skillful qualities to grow. There are two ways of acquiring views. And so we know which ways acquiring views causes unskillful qualities to grow. It's when somebody has such a view. And here we have right view, wrong view, I should say, right? This is wrong view. Hello, Greg. Greg R. Is this somebody new? I don't know if I've met a Greg R before. Welcome. I have met there for you as well, my friend. In what ways of acquiring views is unskillful? When somebody has such a view, there is no meaning in giving, sacrifice, or offerings. There is no fruit or result of good and bad deeds. There's no afterlife. Bhante Sujato's way of translating this is very good. I like this. There are no duties to mother and father. This is a much better understanding translation. It might not be direct. It might not be exactly word for word, but he really has the exact meaning here. No beings are reborn spontaneously. So devas, yakas, right? Beings in the heavenly realms, beings in the hell realms, petas, etc. And there's no ascetic or Brahmin who is well attained in practice, i.e., there's nobody who's awakened and who describes the afterlife as realizing it with their own insight. That way of acquiring views causes unskillful qualities to grow. And now the opposite. There is meaning in giving and sacrifice and offerings. There are fruits and results of good and bad deeds. There is an afterlife. There are duties to mother and father. There are beings reborn spontaneously. And there are ascetics and Brahmins who are well attained and practiced and who describe the afterlife after realizing it with their own insight. That way of acquiring views causes skillful qualities to grow. All right. So, Greg, well, I'm glad that my sharing of Dhamma and my journey online has been beneficial. And welcome to the community. I hope that you can, hang out with us and attend the sessions here with us, and gain some more benefit from it, and also benefit us with your presence and your input as well. We have 19 people. We're close to breaking 20. That might be a record. I'm trying to think if we ever broke 20 on a Dhammapalooza yet so far. I don't know. Maybe once. I don't know. But hello, Sindhu. Okay. So, friends, I see the time. It has been a very productive time here. Adriana says we've had more than 20, so I guess we have. I trust Adriana. Obviously things go up and down while I'm yapping on. So yes, as Douse knows full well, I didn't even say it yet, but Douse knows it's time for him to go, because it's time for our guided meditation to end out the session. Adriana. Oh, yeah, no. You're right. Yeah, because Dhammapalooza started at the beginning of COVID. I left Bhavana March 2020. Dhammapalooza started April 2020. So we are coming up on 2 years of Dhammapalooza. So yeah, we're coming up on 2 years of Dhammapalooza, and we are now over a year of morning monastery experience. Hello, Sean. Welcome. Good to see you again. Have a good work meeting. All right, friends. Let's do our guided meditation. And so we have 19 people on. Adriana, let's see how many people we have at the end of the guided meditation. Because as we know, there is a very dependable, predictable trend of people dropping off. Okay, friends. So start out by putting your body in the posture that is comfortable and stable for you, whether on a cushion, on a chair, the couch, wherever you're sitting. We'll do some scanning through the body, starting from our toes up to our head. We do this for 2 reasons. To bring our mind, our attention from the external slowly through the internal. Bringing our mind and our focus to the body before we switch to the breath, which is more subtle and harder to follow. And the other reason is so that we can see when our posture has little feelings of discomfort or little imbalances that will cause discomfort later on. So that now at the beginning of our meditation, as we're scanning through the body, is the time to adjust your posture, move, and set yourself up so that when we meditate, we can minimize the need to move our body. We want to calm our mind and calm our body. Less thoughts and less movement. So bring your awareness to your toes. It might help to wiggle them. By awareness, we mean that we want to try to focus in on whatever sensation may arise in that part of the body. What does it feel like for the toes to be pressed against the floor or the cushion, against the leg? Pay attention to that feeling, that sensation. Bring your awareness to your feet and ankles. Up through your thighs. What is the feeling of the thighs pressing against the chair, the floor, cushion, whatever they may be touching? As we're scanning, if you're having trouble connecting with the sensation, you can prompt yourself by asking, what do I see? What do I feel? Bring your awareness through the knees and into the thighs. Up the thighs into the pelvis, hip area. This is an important area to check and make sure that how the pelvis and the hips are positioned supports your posture and does not harm it, does not cause all kinds of leaning and slouching, bending. Watch how the position of your hips and pelvis affects the position of the spine. When you're done setting up your lower body as a firm foundation, move to the upper body, through the abs to the chest. Bring your awareness to your shoulders. Make sure they're hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. Moving down to the elbows and the hands. Being aware that the position of the elbows and hands has an impact on your posture. And check how they impact the balance. See if they cause the spine to slouch or lean here and there. And finally, bring your awareness to the head. Check to make sure that the chin is parallel to the floor. The spine is in its natural neutral position. Head's not leaning or slouching back or forth, left or right. And when you're finished setting up your body in a stable and comfortable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. And let the breath go. From here on in, we do not wish to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is only to observe and investigate the breath. Watch as the body breathes in. Watch as the body breathes out. We come to our meditation with many responsibilities, worries, and burdens, family and friends, work and school, worries about the past and the future, many things that will seek to come to our mind as we follow the breath. For the time of this meditation, practice letting go, laying down your burden. Like putting down a heavy backpack that you've been carrying around. Lay down your world and follow the breath. You may find most prominent the feeling of the air coming in and out of the nostrils. If so, you can place your awareness there at the tip of the nose. If not, that's okay. You may find most prominent the rise and fall of the chest. You can place your awareness there. Or you can simply abide with the basic awareness of the body breathing in and breathing out. As you're following your breath, you will become distracted. Your mind will get bored and will go away to the other side of this country, the planet, the galaxy, to the past or the future, anywhere but here with the breath. Or it will latch on to a distraction from the outside, like a sound or a vibration. This is normal. You did not do anything wrong or fail. This is simply the mind showing you how it works, showing you its craving. This practice is developing a skill, making a habit of returning to the breath whenever we're distracted away. So when you become distracted, first acknowledge that distraction. Then practice letting go and return to the breath. Bring your full mindfulness and awareness back after you've been distracted. Recognize you're not following the breath anymore. Acknowledge that. And then try not to be agitated and push the distraction away or be attached to it and think about it more. Try to just let it be. Give it no energy, no attention, and return to the breath. So whenever you're distracted, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. If you're distracted 100 times in a minute, acknowledge, let go, and return 100 times in a minute. For the remaining part of this guided meditation, we'll practice a contemplation called Sila Nusati, reflecting on our good deeds. We were just reading in a sutta about how we build up skillful qualities and abandon unskillful qualities. By reflecting on our good deeds, we can understand what we did and how these cause skillful qualities to grow and unskillful qualities to decline. So say to yourself, let me think about the good deeds I've done in my life. And then just wait and see if any memories of good deeds arise. Give it some time to see if it arises naturally. If not, then actively reflect and try to bring up a time where you did a good deed, where you acted skillfully. It could be small or large, doesn't matter. Bring up that good deed into your awareness. Observe what feelings, thoughts, emotions, visuals, whatever arises from recalling and reflecting that good deed. Perhaps reflect on the short and long-term consequences of that deed. What occurred after it, because of it. How it changed you or another person. Spend time recollecting, contemplating your good deeds. Until the ringing of the bell. Slowly come back from the internal to the external, opening your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, the live stream and your Kalyanamitas in the chats. Take a little bit of time to check with the mind and how the mind has changed since from before we started the meditation. It's always good to reflect on your meditation a little bit after you've done it. All right, Sean. Well, thank you very much, Sean, for being here. And for the like. I saw the like go up right before you said you had to go. So much appreciated for that. Help the channel and all that stuff. Ah, yes. Well, Adriana, you've experienced so many of my guided meditations. I figured, let me see if there's something new can be done here. Instead of hearing the same thing all the time. All right. So we'll do, we got 5 minutes left. So it's time to do some announcements. So those of you who have been attending, and I'd like to, if you are interested in, if you're interested in the kind of teachings that we do here in Dhammapalooza, and which are from the early texts, learning more about that and practicing in that way, you're free to try to join us in our online community on the Discord. Adriana, if you can put the email there. Adriana's going to put up an email, and if you'd like to try out our community and see if it's something that you would like, then just send in an email to that email that's going to be on there and ask for an invite. The other thing is I do Dhammapalooza, same time, same place every Monday, as long as I am in a place that I can do it and I have internet. I also do Morning Monastery Experience, which is a live stream, a half-hour live stream Monday through Friday in the morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, where we do some precepts, some chanting, and a little, like a little 5 to 7 minute Dhamma talk, a little talking of Dhamma. So it's a good way to start your day with some Dhamma. It's very similar to how most monasteries do their morning session. And you can check out my website, muggaseka.org. And if you want to find out when I'm doing events like Zoom events, we just got done with our Metta retreat. First ever Muggaseka Zoom Metta retreat this weekend, just got done. And we have Mindfulness of Death coming up at the end of February. So in a month, I'll have another one, Mindfulness of Death weekend retreat. Mindfulness of Death in Life. There, make it a bit more, at least make the title a bit more optimistic for people who might not understand my way of doing things yet, because there are a good amount of new people coming to me these days, right? To Muggaseka. So they don't know my quirks just yet the way I teach things. So yeah, something like Mindfulness of Death can seem very negative. But anyway, let's see. What else can I think of? Adriana, is there any other advertisements, any other Muggaseka business we should announce? Let's see if Adriana comes up with anything. We have our streams. We have our community. I am going to start. If you're on Insight Timer, find me on Insight Timer. I'm going to start doing events on Insight Timer. I got approved as a teacher to do live events. I don't know quite yet what I'm going to do on Insight Timer or when, but I'm going to try to do something on Insight Timer. So can reach a large audience on Insight Timer. All right. So Adriana and I are out of announcements. So let's do our sharing of merits to end out the night. Dukkha patta chani dukkha, bhaya patta chani bhaya, soka patta chani soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha amehi, sampatang punya sampatang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti settiya, akasata chabumata deva naga mahiddika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends, good to see you all for another Monday Dhammapalooza, another one in the books, another 2-hour festival of Dhamma well spent. Thank you all for coming and being with us, being with the Maggaseka Student of the Path community tonight. And we hope to see you again in other live streams and future events on our Discord channel. And thank you very much. And also, oh boy, our likes have jumped up. Thank you all for thinking about these kind of things, like sharing the channel, sharing our stuff, giving the likes and all that. That's much appreciated. Thank you. It's good to see you all. So I wish you a very spiritually successful and peaceful week. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well.